Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome in. Pro football today. The postseason rolls on in the National Football League. Joe Lisi, Donnie Rightside, Kevin Walsh with you here on this Sunday morning. We've played 2. We'll play 3 more today, Joe. We're just getting started.
Oh, the games were great yesterday, right? AFC battles that we saw go right down to the wire. Pittsburgh loses in terms of the nightcap. They lose that matchup 28 to 14. And we saw the first matchup. Defense really held for Houston in terms of that matchup. But the games today really are the spicy ones, right? Can Josh Allen dominate? They're 8-0 at home, Donnie. And then you see the matchup in terms of the 4 o'clock window, the rematch of Week 1, Philadelphia and Green Bay, culminated with Jaden Daniels and Baker Mayfield. Could be fireworks a little bit later tonight.
Yeah, and we'll see some upsets here like we saw yesterday. And also keep in mind, like, the public always overweighs in on playoff games and Super Bowls, unlike the regular season. The reason I bring it up is I told you, to start the week last week, guys, man, Chargers going to roll the Texans. And later in the week, it's like, ooh, that line isn't moving here. A lot of money coming in on the Chargers. And then what was the other common theme for most people? Steelers getting 10? Are you kidding me? Look at this. Divisional rivalry. There's no way it's going to come down to the end. That game was over, it felt like, before it started. But, boy, that Texans-Chargers game we're going to get to is so interesting. For me, the 3 games today, love it. You know, I'm an Eagles fan, going to be enjoying that Packers game. I think it's going to be the best one of the weekend. The nightcap here, I love and got a great feel in that game with Baker Mayfield. I got to tell you, struggling a little bit with the early game today.
Are you?
Struggling a little bit.
I will
I can see it going one way or another.
I will say one of the things that has potentially pushed me a certain direction within Buffalo, Denver, is last year's game between Green Bay and Dallas. Not that 7 seed wins every year. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's that early, Donnie, what you just said, Packers. I don't know. The Cowboys been pretty good at home. And then we saw what happened in that game. Sometimes teams get into certain spots, and I think that's what makes that game so fascinating today between Buffalo and Denver. You know, everything's pretty calm right now around the postseason.
Yeah.
You want chaos? A Denver victory. Let's just say that's what plays out today, Joe. You know, we talk a lot of coaches. We'll talk more coaches today. I'm not sure Sean McDermott could survive an opening round loss here to the Broncos.
I don't think so either. I think about how they bowed out last year and knowing the expectation, the potential to challenge for a number one seed. They knocked off Kansas City in terms of the regular season, handed at that particular time Kansas City their first loss in terms of the regular season and how they were able to dominate. And seeing Josh Allen play at an elite level, his best throughout his career, and then to potentially lose to a rookie quarterback as an 8.5, 9-point favorite, that wouldn't be good for Sean McDermott, I believe, moving forward, right? From an identity problem and just looking at this team as a whole, they have it on paper, but when the playoffs hit, Donnie, they just can't live up to expectations. I think it's opposite today. I think there's more pressure on Bo Nix and Sean Payton. They were able to develop throughout the regular season. They got to this point. They dominated backups last week against Kansas City. Can they do it in terms of a road environment and against an elite offense?
Yeah, I think Joe hit on the head, too, the road environment. You saw yesterday, man. Those crowds get involved. You can have that takeover just like you saw for the Texans. And, of course, the Baltimore Ravens sitting there waiting for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're going to get similar effects today. 3 places that have a pretty good home field advantage. The Philadelphia Eagles, that crowd is going to be wild. And also we know about the Bills Mafia up in Orchard Park. They're going to be ready to go right off the bat. And it's just something you look at because something that you usually see to yourself and say, okay, I want veteran quarterbacks in the playoffs that can lead me to victory. 2 quarterbacks today, rookies. 2 quarterbacks today on the road as rookies. That's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a great point there. I think it's also, man, I cannot believe we have 2 rookie QBs here, and this guy, Caleb Williams, isn't playing football on this slate, but probably a conversation for another time. You mentioned the night game, and Washington grabs a lot of headlines because of the season that Jaden Daniels has had. I don't think that Tampa's under the radar. I think Baker grabs a lot of headlines. Todd Bowles. Tom Brady leaves. I understand the South has been down for a while now. I get that. Multiple division titles without Tom. And a favorite today, multiple playoff wins it would be without Tom. You look at the Bucs' resume against playoff teams during this season. They've beaten both the Lions and the Eagles. What? How's that even a thing? Right? They smoked the Chargers in L.A. We saw them hang with, a very banged-up version of themselves at Arrowhead. And again, who doesn't? This is a Bucs team, Lisi. You talk battle-tested. They check that box.
Yeah, and Todd Bowles has done a fantastic job. Quietly, I'll say, because, you look at his first tenure in terms of New York, didn't live up to expectations. And then in terms of this stint, after Tom Brady leaves, there were some bumps in the road. But look at how they're winning games. It's just not the defensive side of the ball. They've won 6 of the last 7. And you talk about Baker Mayfield, guys. Over the last 7 weeks, he's averaging 285 passing yards per game. Go back to last year. Down the stretch, Donnie, last 7 games of the regular season with Dave Canales, they average around 290 per game. They pushed Detroit in terms of that divisional matchup. So they have stepped up against elite competition. We'll see how they dominate today against a young Washington team. But you got to give credit to Todd Bowles. He's really developed this team offensively and defensively.
I don't like Todd Bowles as a head coach. I love him as a defensive coordinator. But sometimes we talk about Mike Tomlin. Hey, I'm going to run this team the way I want to see fit. Every offensive coordinator they bring in is terrible. Credit that organization and Todd Bowles for saying, you know what? You want young, innovative offenses that you might throw the football and put me in some bad spots on defense by turning it over. We have a shot to win every week. You got to credit Tampa Bay for doing that because they nailed their last 2 offensive coordinators.
Well, that is the incredible thing, just to say quickly. Dave Canales got all this credit. Fine. Went to Carolina. People were like, man, this Panthers team's going to be something. Woof. The season that they were having. I know it got better. Liam Cohen now may leave for a head coaching job. And again, I think he could be great. But you're right, Donnie. They deserve that credit. And also, and it's a small thing, and them throwing that football with the postseason on the line to Mike Evans for 1,000 yards was the right move, and also a move I never thought a defensive first head coach would ever be willing to make. Give them a ton of credit for that. Eagles-Packers. We're going to get a lot into yesterday's games in our coming up segment. Certainly, there's so much to get into there with the Texans win and the Ravens victory as well. Eagles-Packers is a game, for anybody that does not know, the preseason pick for me was the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. And I only grew in confidence in that pick as the year went on. To me, the Philadelphia Eagles have the best roster in football. They matched that with what I think is the best resume in football as well. The wins at L.A., at Cincinnati, at Baltimore. The win they never got credit for. I begged you specifically on this desk many times when you told me that the Packers were better than the Eagles, and everybody else did as well. Hey, but how about the fact that they beat them? Even Donnie goes, no, the game was played in Brazil. It didn't count. But that's a part of what the Eagles have done this season. And that's one element of it. What stood out to me as I dove into this game, Lisi, Matt LaFleur.
Mm-hmm.
I might have more questions than answers when it comes to the Packers head coach.
Well, it's possible. I mean, definitely inconsistent during the regular season this year. Last year, did a great job with Jordan Love's first season under center and really cultivated that talent. Jordan Love last year averaged 270 per game with 20 touchdowns and 3 interceptions over the last 8 or 9 games of the regular season. Now you look at this offense, it's built solely on Josh Jacobs, and as he goes, so does that offense and wins and losses, right? But Philly will take that away. I still believe Matt LaFleur, from a game plan perspective, is a very good head coach, and I'm not taking away from what Philly has done. Philly has won 12 of the last 13 games. They at one point had an 11-game winning streak, and when they lost to Washington, all the pundits said, the Eagles are frauds. I don't believe that. I think the Eagles are potentially one of the best teams in the NFC. I do believe this matchup is difficult because I think that Green Bay does have the skill talent to potentially challenge them today.
But the one thing, too, you look at that first game, which I don't take a lot away from. Yes, you wanted the victory out of it, and I said while the game was being played, whoever wins this game, I'm not going to knock the loser or praise the winner because it was a little bit of tough circumstances. But understand this. I think the Eagles are a better football team today than they were week 1, much more than the Green Bay Packers specifically because that defense really got in line. Number 2, you look at the Packers, good football team. Whenever they had that measuring stick game, they had to level up against the Eagles. Against the Vikings in Detroit, they lost all of those games.
0-5 against Philly, Minnesota, and Detroit. It's a point well served. Let's talk about yesterday. The winners, the losers, and the head scratchers, all next.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one, Steve?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Looks up, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Louis Riddick has interviewed for every job in North America. And I'm not just talking football. I'm talking about every business in North America of any kind whatsoever. Tire companies, grocery store CEOs, shopping malls, insurance companies. What job hasn't Louis Riddick interviewed for?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The wildest Sunday in football is here. Start your day at 8 a.m. with Fantasy Sports Today. Then at 10 a.m., Pro Football Today breaks down every angle before the triple header kicks off. Stay with In-Game Live as we chase those parlays, props, and live bets across all 3 wild card showdowns. Don't miss a minute. Only on SportsGrid.
Pro Football Today is back right here on SportsGrid, and we take a look back at yesterday's games. And I think it is smart to start in Baltimore. For the chronological order, people out there, you might be a little upset. I just have a feeling there's going to be a lot to say around both sides of this game. And I think we should start with the Baltimore side. 21-0 at half. For me, they made only one mistake in this game. It didn't make the difference, but that punt to come out of the halftime was embarrassing, and I wish it cost them the game.
Oh.
It didn't, but do not there's 11 minutes left in the third quarter, act like the game is over. They should have went for it. They didn't. Okay, fine. The Baltimore Ravens drew the perfect opponent. I was curious to see if that would be the case, but it ended up being exactly that. One of the things that has haunted Lamar, you talk about the postseason, the Steelers are in that conversation as well. You marry the two of them, and you give him this hurdle to clear. But it is something in Pittsburgh much scarier in theory than practice, because the Steelers in the playoffs the last few seasons are nothing more than something you steamroll. Buffalo did it last year, Kansas City a few years ago. They show up, they're completely outclassed, and that's what the Ravens were able to do. Get Lamar a load of confidence, Henry some confidence if need be, and the team as a whole feeling good about themselves with potentially a trip to Buffalo happening next week. For the Ravens, it could not have gone better yesterday.
No, it was a carbon copy of what we saw basically in Week 15, where they pulled away in terms of the fourth quarter and won that matchup by 17 points when you average 6 yards per carry. Derrick Henry has 26 carries, $186, and 2 touchdowns, and you're putting your team in terms of a 21 first-half lead over a gutless offense in terms of Pittsburgh. I'm sorry, you're going to win that game, and more importantly, you're going to cover the 10-point spread, and that's exactly what they did. By the time Pittsburgh woke up and got 14 points, they already trailed, and they didn't have an offensive identity. They ran 11 times, 29 yards, 2.8 yards per carry. That's not going to get it done. And again, it's the same thing about Baltimore. Yes, when they run the football, Donnie, they are very explosive and they dominate games, and Lamar Jackson doesn't have to do a lot, right? They won this game in the trenches. But for the flip side, for Pittsburgh, we talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses. This is on Arthur Smith. This is on Mike Tomlin.
It certainly is. And also, you can take some credit away from that defense of the Pittsburgh Steelers that they sort of built that foundation around. I believe T.J. Watt's last 140-plus snaps, no tackles, no sacks. Come on, man. Biggest games of the year. You got to step up, and he wasn't able to do that. But I got to tell you, if you just look at the box score, it's perfect for the quarterbacks. If you would have told me before the game, Donnie, I'm not going to show you anything but Russell Wilson's statistics for that game. 20 of 29, 272 touchdowns, no interceptions. Yeah. They win that game, or at least they cover that game for the 10 points they didn't. Look at Lamar Jackson. I told you, you don't need 30-plus passing attempts. 16 for 21, $175, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's a perfect box score. But you know what was more physical? It was the Baltimore Ravens, and it wasn't even close. How about the drive? 13, 14 straight carries right down the field to punch in a touchdown against the Steelers' defense, basically breaking their back. And Kevin's right. It was almost like they were disrespecting the Steelers by coming out and punting in the second half, because if you would have told me right now, Kevin, and give you the odds, they're going to run that fourth down play. Lamar goes back and does whatever he wants, runs for 6 yards out of bounds. We laugh. They punch it in. It's 28-0 at that point here. They were also toying with the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is something that you don't see in this series over the past decade, at least decade plus, when both of these head coaches have been in place. That was a 28-14. Oh, they got aggressive. Yeah. Why did we get aggressive late if you were the Steelers? 4th and an inch, not going for the get. Come on, Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, the Steelers aspect of it, again, so tempting. I just want to, for Baltimore, it's only step one. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing is, and look, we're going to get into the Denver game, but just if the Bills win, and then, that would mean Kansas City would play Houston. Mm-hmm. There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl, but it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started. As far as the Steelers go, Mike Tomlin hasn't won a playoff game in, I believe, now 8 years. Any coach that is true of would be fired. But Mike Tomlin is obviously always going to be a winner. By the way, we just got breaking NFL news, it looks like here, that the Patriots are going to be hiring Mike Vrabel. We're going to be getting into that later on in our show. But anybody just tuning in, some coaching news right there. Mike Vrabel will be returning home to New England. We'll get into that. So I guess the Patriots, don't need a head coach if Tomlin comes available. There's always this thing when people talk about if the Steelers got rid of Tomlin, someone would fire him. Someone would hire him right away. And Okay. I don't. Who cares? It's about your situation. And I do not know if Mike Tomlin is ready to make the necessary moves to get this team back to a Super Bowl contender. It might mean a few down years or maybe taking a risk and trading up in the NFL draft for Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders.
Right, it's possible. But again, when you have a veteran coach that's had success, right? Tomlin has one Super Bowl, went to another and coached in another, didn't win that ball game. But again, he's a Super Bowl winning coach. You think you could do it your way, right? And the game has evolved certain ways where you have to develop quarterback talent. You have to develop skilled talent around that quarterback and have an offensive identity. And the way you could win ball games maybe 10 or 15 years ago, running the football, playing sound defense, isn't the way you win games anymore. It just isn't. It's particular. You could do it maybe 1 year in terms of that outlier, but consistently, year in and year out, you need to have explosive plays from an offensive perspective. And unless you develop that, whether it be in terms of an elite quarterback or a coordinator like a Bobby Slowick or a Ben Johnson, you're not going to win anywhere or make a playoff push to a championship.
But let's understand this fact. This isn't the Browns. This isn't the Bengals. This is a 6-time Super Bowl champion organization that is now saying, we just like to win football games and make the playoffs. If Mike Tomlin was in Cincinnati, they'd build a statue for him out front, and rightfully so. Not the Steelers. They're about championships, not 500 or better seasons.
Yeah, that. I absolutely love what you just said there because it is somehow so lost in this. The Steelers' MO should not be 9-8, 10-7. You are the
winning season.
Pittsburgh Steelers, man. We're going to keep breaking it down. It's Pro Football Today.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books up, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Louis Riddick has interviewed for every job in North America. And I'm not just talking football. I'm talking about every business in North America of any kind whatsoever. Tire companies, grocery store CEOs, shopping malls, insurance companies. What job hasn't Louis Riddick interviewed for?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The wildest Sunday in football is here. Start your day at 8 a.m. with Fantasy Sports Today. Then at 10 a.m., Pro Football Today breaks down every angle before the triple header kicks off. Stay with In-Game Live as we chase those parlays, props, and live bets across all 3 wildcard showdowns. Don't miss a minute. Only on SportsGrid.
Back right here, Pro Football Today. Kevin Walsh, Donnie Rightside, and Joe Lisi. Now, you take a look, and the breaking news with Mike Vrabel is clearly grabbing some people here early. So let's dive into what this means. We will get to Chargers, Texans in a bit. Don't worry about it. Again, if you missed it, Herbert was atrocious in the playoffs once again. That's the long and short of it all. Mike Vrabel, hired by the New England Patriots. One thing that, when this team moved on from Gerard Mayo after one season, it certainly suggested that they felt good they'd be able to make a big move. And I think undoubtedly Mike Vrabel is a big move for the New England Patriots. But, Joe, is it the right move for the New England Patriots?
I think I'm perplexed about it. I go both ways because I think Mike Vrabel is a very good coach, and it's an upgrade from Gerard Mayo. But I sort of put Mike Vrabel in the same situation that maybe we're in with Mike Tomlin with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Did he plateau with Tennessee? Did he get to a certain level and couldn't get over the top with Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, and A.J. Brown? I mean, yeah, made it to an AFC championship a few years ago, couldn't knock off Kansas City, and regressed from that point on. So if you're looking for New England to get back to being competitive within the AFC, I think that's a very doable feat with Mike Vrabel over maybe Gerard Mayo because of the experience and a younger, obviously rookie second-year quarterback in Drake May. But is he an elite coach? I don't know. I still have questions about Mike Vrabel as well, and I don't know if he's going to get them to an AFC championship over the next 3 or 4 years.
I think he's stepping into the best coaching spot you can be in. A ton of money, an owner that's embarrassed, and you figure you have your franchise quarterback already under wraps and a top 5 pick coming into it. That's the start here. But understand this, too, from NFL franchise owners. They don't like to be out there in the streets like, man, I used to have something really good. Now I'm the embarrassment right now of the NFL, and everybody's telling me it's because I found a quarterback and a coach, and they're gone now. I had nothing to do with the success of this franchise. Like, if you're in New England, right, the ship's coming in, you don't want to shipwreck. You got that big lighthouse out there with the beacon of light that goes, you know what? That's safety. I know exactly where I'm going. That was this hire. It was the safest hire they could have. And also, I don't know, Joe, if it ends up in AFC championship games or Super Bowls, but you know what it will end up with? This team is going to be sound next year. They're going to be tough. They're going to win football games because they're going to spend money. Does he get a championship? We'll find out. But for me, the safest move that I don't think anybody in New England looks at this and goes, man, I wanted Dion. Like, you get Vrabel and that news hits, you're like, all right, looks like we're back to New England Patriots football.
But see, that is my issue with this. What is the Patriot way, to me, was winning.
Mm-hmm.
And it was winning at all costs. Whether that meant getting rid of guys kind of ruthlessly in their prime, cheating, potentially, winning. It does not mean that then you only know 6 people around the league and one of them has to be your head coach. Was Bill O'Brien the second man for this job, potentially? Again, you just tried to do the Patriot way with Gerard Mayo and fired him. Why? What? Gerard Mayo was given the worst roster in football, half of the season quarterbacked by Jacoby Brissett, won 4 games. He did exactly what we thought he would. So why did you hire Gerard Mayo, a former linebacker of the New England Patriots, to hire Mike Vrabel, a former linebacker of the New England Patriots? If it's because Vrabel has prior head coaching experience, then how the heck did Gerard Mayo get the job? That doesn't make any damn sense.
Well, it's viewed that Vrabel is a very good coach. It's the perception is that Vrabel is a great game planner, that Vrabel cultivates talent. But again, he regressed in Tennessee. He did not elevate once he got to a certain level. And he had elite talent. He had A.J. Brown. He had Derrick Henry. And he couldn't win games in his own division and get to an AFC championship and win it. So
he got to an AFC championship in Tennessee.
Yeah, and what did he do after that time? They never got back to that level. That was my point. You had Derrick Henry in his prime 5-6 years ago, and you couldn't get there. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about it. You regressed from that point. Yes, you hit a certain level. You ran into a buzzsaw in terms of Pat Mahomes in Kansas City. You got beat by a better team. And from that point on, you lost games. I mean, that's just the bottom line. They had the number 1 seed against Joe Burrow in their house in Nashville and lost. Is Mike Vrabel a great coach?
Listen, I think Mike Vrabel can be a good coach, honestly. Like, I probably like Mike Vrabel more than you do, Joe.
Yeah.
But this is the same
I
thing.
agree.
Like, I really thought they would make a gutsy move like bring in Ben Johnson. By the way, like, for consistency, whenever we have a young quarterback, what do we all say? Hire an offensive guy.
Yeah.
Nope, we got Arthur Smith's old buddy now in charge. Not great.
Yeah.
Right back.
two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one, Steve?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books are, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Louis Riddick has interviewed for every job in North America. And I'm not just talking football. I'm talking about every business in North America of any kind whatsoever. Tire companies, grocery store CEOs, shopping malls, insurance companies. What job hasn't Louis Riddick interviewed for?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The wildest Sunday in football is here. Start your day at 8 a.m. with Fantasy Sports Today. Then at 10 a.m., Pro Football Today breaks down every angle before the triple header kicks off. Stay with In-Game Live as we chase those parlays, props, and live bets across all three wild card showdowns. Don't miss a minute. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, we're live with you right here on SportsGrid. The breaking news this morning out of New England. They've hired their head coach, Mike Vrabel. Certainly something that we will be getting into a lot more throughout the day here. Adam Kaplan, NFL Insider, will join us. We'll see what he's heard around this situation. Mike Vrabel, though, is not going to walk into New England without expectations. Year number one, you can make the playoffs. Mecca Ryans did it and made it his second year. And Jim Harbaugh did it as well with L.A. Although, was this season a success for L.A.? It's a valid question because you walked into the game as a field goal favorite. You're an 11-win football team, and you were spotted an early lead. That probably should have been more, but it wasn't. You pick your head up now, Lisi. And for me, Justin Herbert has a playoff bugaboo that he's going to have to try and get over. He's been there twice. Game number one, he's on the wrong side of the biggest comeback in NFL postseason history. And game number two, he manages to throw more interceptions in a playoff loss than he threw the entire regular season.
Yeah.
Not great.
4 interceptions yesterday really put his team in terms of a disadvantage. To your point, they start with the lead 6-0. They looked like they were dominating, running the football with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. And then all of a sudden, the wheels fell off, right? Houston started to dominate the trenches from a defense and offensive line perspective. We saw big plays in the late second quarter by C.J. Stroud. He throws for 282 yards. Once they got the lead about 10-6, they just took over from a defensive perspective. And the front seven, led by Will Anderson, you hold L.A. to 2.8 yards per carry. 3 of 11 in terms of third down conversions, forced 4 interceptions. That's a very difficult recipe to overcome, and that's why they got blown out in terms of that matchup. For Houston, they got back to their offensive identity. We saw Nico Collins, 7 receptions, $122 and a touchdown, Mixon over 100 yards. They play like that from a defensive perspective, Donnie. They're going to be a very difficult out. I don't put a lot. Herbert played terrible. I'm not going to bash Herbert and say, is his playoff career, like Lamar or Dak up until this point where he hasn't lived up to expectations, only 2 games. But, again, this team, I believe, overexceeded expectations in year one with Jim Harbaugh. They weeded the players that don't fit in. They got the players that do fit in. And now year number 2, I think sky's the limit for the team.
I actually like the season the way it played out for the Chargers because Harbaugh came in, instilled that foundation, as we like to talk about. Here's how we're going to play. tried to challenge for the division, but it's going to be tough, obviously, in that tough AFC West they have. But getting to the playoffs, they lost. You know what? I actually like that for them. I said, that's crazy. Why would you like it in the actual losing, and that's an embarrassment the way they did it? No, but here's what happens. They understand they have the foundation of a good football team. All of those warts completely showed up in that playoff game. You have one wide receiver, basically. Look at the actual statistics on who the quarterback Justin Herbert was throwing to. You had one player. Nobody else could show up. You now know that your first-round bust that has shown up multiple times over the past 2 years to not even have catches, to have 150 yards, then go back to having no catches. He's gone. He's completely done. He's cheap there. Might be able to keep him around to see what you can get. But at the same time, you need multiple wide receivers next year in free agency that you cut this year. Rightfully so, you did that. You also need a tight end that can actually get down the field and sort of help you out. You need another running back because J.K. Dobbins is forever going to stay injured when you need him in the biggest moments here. So for my money, I liked what I saw because Harbaugh can't say, you know what? We won 2 playoff games. I love this football team. No. You saw exactly what this football team is and the flaws it has. Go out and make the improvements in the offseason because next year, I'm looking forward to see what the Chargers bring to the table.
I think you're correct that there is a lot of room for improvement. I think the expectations are they're going to have a big offseason.
Yeah.
They're going to push that Chiefs number a little bit. Maybe it depends on how well Kansas City does within the postseason this year. You're talking about top 4, 5 odds to win the conference next year from L.A. But again, now Herbert has a hurdle. We talk about these things, and it's real because yesterday he looked broken. It looked like it was getting to him. He's like, man, I'd like for this to be over. Right. I'd like to go home. I'm not having a good time.
No, he wasn't. The offensive line broke down, though. That was when you can't run the football consistently, and you're in 3rd and 8, and now you're down double digits, and Will Anderson and that front 7 are pinning their ears back because they know it's pass only. He got battered, right? And he got exploited. The team got exploited in regards to that type of situation. Just a bad matchup for Houston, and I credit DeMeco Ryans and that defense. We talk about how they stepped up against better quarterbacks this year, and they proved themselves coming back at home. But think about the defense for a second. They were the worst under Brandon Staley, right? And again, the first playoff loss, Kev, he puts up 30 points. It's not like a Lamar Jackson where he threw 136 yards. They scored 13 points and lost the ball game by 17 points. It was part Justin Herbert in the second half and part on Brandon Staley. But think about the evolution of the defense under Jim Harbaugh. At one point this season, they had the number 1 ranked scoring defense with the same basically team that they had under Brandon Staley, and they elevated. So that's why I think there's room for optimism. But to your point, they get back to the playoffs next year. Justin Herbert has to answer the bell, Kev.
Yeah, he absolutely does. Look, on the Houston side of this, I think in this game you saw that had the Texans been able to stay healthy, they were a clear-cut contender to win this conference. Will Anderson is a future Defensive Player of the Year. Danielle Hunter still has it. The secondary has been awesome this year. Derek Stingley is fantastic. They lost players like Jalen Petrie. Still great. C.J. Stroud, you still want to have that guy if you can. Nico Collins, star, unbelievable. You wish you still had Diggs or Dell. Ideally both. They now have shown up to the playoffs 2 years in a row and opened this as the 4 seed, a dog against what is supposed to be a very dangerous 5, and they've won both games convincingly now under DeMeco Ryans. The question for Houston, look, and maybe they can pull off a big upset next week. It would either come against Baltimore or Kansas City, right? It would be massive if they can get it. The question is all this team missing from being that true contender, Donnie, health? Is that all they're missing?
I do believe so. Like, of course, you're going to mix and match and get more players, but the excitement that we were talking about, because now it's like, hey, you know what? That's a pretty impressive season for the Texans. They won a playoff game we didn't think they could by midway through the season. But coming in, the expectations were, boy, if C.J. Stroud even takes a 1 step forward from what we saw last year, they might be able to take down the reigning champions in the Kansas City Chiefs. We knew Nico Collins was a really good wide receiver and go, you know what? He's probably going to be better because Stephon Diggs is going to be there and Tank Dell also, which means you can't just double coverage one guy. You're going to have to worry about everybody. So I look at this season and say the expectations were sky high, and now I look at it going like, you know what? That was a damn good season for the Texans, even though they won a conference or the division that wasn't that good, but they won a playoff game because figuring they were entering into the playoffs behind the 8 ball where we thought, or most people thought, the Chargers would come in and win that game. And then it's like, ooh, maybe it wasn't so good. A playoff win with how many injuries they had, that's a bright future for the Texans.
And think about, like, the lead up to the game yesterday. All we heard is better coach Harbaugh, better quarterback Herbert, better offensive, defensive lines. Chargers, right? And the Texans really, it looked like that in terms of the first quarter, but then in terms of the second half adjustments and in the second quarter, that big play by Stroud where he fumbles the snap and he breaks contain, that changed the whole momentum of the game. Once Nico Collins catches that 30-yard ball and they're inside, and now it's like they weathered the storm. We're down 6-0. They take the lead 7-6. They never look back, right? The defense said, rely on us. We'll carry you home.
Also, Harbaugh called timeouts on the touchdown drive for Houston. Let me get Herbert the ball back. Right? And the end result of that was the Texans getting another field goal. That cannot happen.
No.
And I'm not blaming him. That is, listen, you can point to a lot.
Absolutely.
Because you're right. Ultimately, outside of Ladd McConkey, the rest of the roster went 5 for 35. Horrible. Right? Quentin Johnston, yikes. Right. The funny thing is that people are like, man, they could have took Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison. Yes, much better. I mean, listen, it wasn't like when the Eagles passed on Justin Jefferson for Jalen Reagor. Like, this team needs a lot more than just a Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison. All valid. Justin Herbert has to be way better because Justin Herbert is a guy, and this is where I know my Eagle fandom comes in. I keep looking at every goddamn list, tell me he's way better than Jalen Hurts, and I can't figure out why that's the case.
That's not true. It didn't come from this desk. I'll tell you that right now. The perception is crazy.
What we're going to do, though, before we get to Jalen Hurts' game today, we get to Josh Allen's. You thought Herbert had a lot on the line. Joshy boy, you're up next.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books up, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Louis Riddick has interviewed for every job in North America. And I'm not just talking football. I'm talking about every business in North America of any kind whatsoever. Tire companies, grocery store CEOs, shopping malls, insurance companies. What job hasn't Louis Riddick interviewed for?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The wildest Sunday in football is here. Start your day at 8 a.m. with Fantasy Sports Today. Then at 10 a.m., Pro Football Today breaks down every angle before the triple header kicks off. Stay with In-Game Live as we chase those parlays, props, and live bets across all 3 wild card showdowns. Don't miss a minute. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, let's get into today's action here. Yesterday was fun, I will say, as someone who has been annoyed by the NFL product at times this year. Yesterday's games weren't even that good, and it was a good time watching some postseason football. Today we are expecting some better games. We'll see if that's ultimately what we get. Kevin Walsh, Donnie Rightside, and Joe Lisi with you here on SportsGrid. We begin with the biggest spread of the day, the biggest spread remaining, which is Buffalo as an 8.5-point favorite against the Denver Broncos. And it's interesting because for Buffalo, this could just be ho-hum, smash, move on, see ya. Baltimore, let's figure this whole thing out. I don't know how many people have been faced with what happens if they lose this game. Is McDermott fired? Can we still really call Josh Allen a top 3 quarterback in football? Is Joe Brady going to still leave to get a new job, by the way, within this whole process? How does that reshape things here? If they do lose, whose fault is it? Does Josh go back to throwing interceptions? Again, it may not matter. I think it might. It may not. How do you see it right now, Joe, between Buffalo and Denver?
Well, I think Buffalo is clearly the much better team, and if they lose this game, then I think you have to answer questions in terms of Sean McDermott. I thought last year they had to answer questions, and I wouldn't have a problem if they would have fired Sean McDermott at the end of the regular season and playoffs last year because they plateaued as well. When you have Josh Allen and you have an elite quarterback that can just elevate and be an MVP caliber type of player, you have to at least challenge for an AFC championship. And to bow out yet again in terms of the playoffs last year, not a good sign. Now, this year, I think they dominate Denver. When you look at the statistics, they are clean at home, 8-0 at home, and have won those games by an average margin of victory, Donnie, of 16.6 points per game, running the football with James Cook. And you see those sweet baby Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, and those three-headed monster at the running back position, offensive line playing clean. I think it's going to be very difficult for Denver to challenge and contain Josh Allen in that attack today. And you look at Denver, 4-5 away from Mile High. I think that's a cause of concern. You look at the 4 wins. Tampa Bay earlier in the year, that was an outlier. New York Jets, Las Vegas, and New Orleans. The 5 losses at Seattle, Ravens, Chiefs, Chargers, Bengals. Potentially all playoff caliber teams. I think they're up against it today, Donnie.
I'll tell you what, too, if you are looking big picture at the Buffalo Bills, like expectations get you fired. Like you love them as a coach because it means you have a good football team, but if you don't excel, you're going to be gone sooner than later. And it's not as if Sean McDermott's like, hey, the last 2 years been like, no, this is a team that's been on the cusp for a couple years now, and you're not even advancing to a Super Bowl, let alone win a Super Bowl on a franchise that lost 4 straight Super Bowls in the 1990s. But we can always play devil's advocate with that, too, and say, you know what, Kevin, if he gets fired, he'll be hired tomorrow by another team. Like, no, there are expectations here with a really good football team. And by the way, I thought he did a pretty good job this year because heading into the season, this was the Buffalo Bills team that wasn't on that hot seat of, ooh, that's the next team that's going to win the Super Bowl. They sort of said, okay, we got a little bit of defensive problems here. We got to cut some guy loose, salary cap issues. We're going to trade Stephon Diggs. Like, oh, they might be taking a step back. But they're the number 2 seed. The expectations are high again. Yeah. Now, if you're looking at next week and the Baltimore Ravens come to town and it's 24-23, and boy, what a great game that was. Like, of course not. You're supposed to beat a team that's not supposed to be in the playoffs this year in the Denver Broncos with a rookie at quarterback. You don't handle your business today, there's going to be a lot of questions.
You know, it's funny. I actually would slightly push back on even them losing to Baltimore being totally forgiven.
Yeah. Well, they lost to them earlier in the year, though. They got pounded 35-10.
Yeah. Do you think that Bills fans who have every single year
like that? I like where you're going with that.
No, but I'm saying,
like, they keep it close. Like, that's got to be a badge of honor for McDermott.
I'm saying, like, because, the perception in that game was they didn't play their best game. They were on the road. Right? Now you're getting Baltimore in your house, just the way you had Joe Burrow in Cincinnati in your house, and you lost that game by double digits.
That sets up what that is going to be fun.
Again, well, if we get there. Let me get into this, okay? So, I was very interested in what teams' playoff resumes looked like. And the Bills have, I think, easily the funniest in the league. They went 2-3 against playoff teams. Their 2 victories are Kansas City and Detroit. So that means those 2 teams went 0-2 against Buffalo, 30-2 against the rest of the NFL, which is ridiculous, right? We know the Bills can beat great teams. It does mean that the Bills could be had. The loss to L.A., Baltimore, and Houston. Now, those were all road games. The Bills went unbeaten at home. Buffalo played closer games this year more than normal. The old MO of Buffalo is if they win, don't worry, it's going to be by 10+, 14+. This year, of their games that were at home, 4 of them were by 9 or less, right? That's partly why I'm wondering if this thing can hit back to 9. Just it'll make me feel a little bit better about the game. So, for the Bills, when they played those playoff teams, the only team that they beat by more than 8.5. Yeah, you guessed it. Keeps coming up like this. The Kansas City Chiefs, who we got to keep pretending are all that great. I don't know, man. Denver this season played a number of playoff games, right? Or teams that were in the playoffs. Chargers twice, Chiefs twice. They beat Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
The only team that made the playoffs that beat them by more than a touchdown was Baltimore. It's possible. I look at this game. I know the MO, especially around Wild Card Weekend, is favorite's going to cover, dog's going to win outright. I'm taking the points with the Denver Broncos. I think the Broncos cover this football game. One of the other things that gave me confidence, Lisi, is I know that you said Buffalo is better. Buffalo's better. But I think that the Broncos defense is nearly as, I think the gap between these two defenses is almost as big as the gap between the offenses. That Broncos defense has been fantastic this season.
No, you're right. And they held Carson Wentz and those backups for Kansas City that weren't just scrubs to no points last week in terms of their building. You look at the 5 losses on the road to, like I said, quality opponents, right? They've lost those games by an average margin of defeat of 10.4 points per game, and styles make fights, right? You have Sean Payton, Super Bowl winning coach, and has gotten the most out of this team just the way Jim Harbaugh has. I believe they can't allow Bo Nix to light it up the way they have, and that's the matchup why I do favor Josh Allen in this Buffalo offense. I think they throw caution to the wind, knowing that they've stepped up in playoff wins before where they haven't covered. I think they dominate today.
If you don't win on that defensive line for Denver, it could be a long day. They're one of the best cornerbacks in football. I get that, but that doesn't work when you're giving them 3-4 seconds in the pocket. Keep an eye on Nick Bonito on that outside. If he gets home a couple times today, to make it interesting.
Some spread updates around this one and some props to look at next.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books up, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Louis Riddick has interviewed for every job in North America. And I'm not just talking football. I'm talking about every business in North America of any kind whatsoever. Tire companies, grocery store CEOs, shopping malls, insurance companies. What job hasn't Louis Riddick interviewed for?
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The wildest Sunday in football is here. Start your day at 8 a.m. with Fantasy Sports Today. Then at 10 a.m., Pro Football Today breaks down every angle before the triple header kicks off. Stay with In-Game Live as we chase those parlays, props, and live bets across all 3 wild card showdowns. Don't miss a minute. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, back right here. It is Pro Football Today. I mentioned some line movement here. Donnie, I go to you. I trust your board a little more than mine. 8.5's all gone?
8.5's all gone. 7.5's now. And by the way, the interesting part about this was I was looking at the odds board over the past 15 minutes, and I thought it was like an error. Like it was going 7.5, 8, 8.5. Back to 8, back to 7.5, back to 8, 8.5, and now finally settling at 7.5. DraftKings and FanDuel both have 7.5. There's still 8s, it looks like, at BetMGM and 365. So this is one to keep an eye on because you're right. You were seeing that 8.5. We said like in the Baltimore game. Was that ever going to get to 10? Who was going to come in late? The 10s were around. It dipped a little bit. But somebody right now is buying Denver because I'm looking at the ticket counts here. Only about 37% of the tickets are actually on the Broncos. So it looks like some sharp money hitting the Broncos before that kickoff at 1 o'clock
today. Could be John Gruden. He was big on Bo Nix. Big bad Bo Nix the other day. Saw his video. We'll see. I love the other side. And I know love is a crazy word, but I just booked Buffalo -7.5. And you want to give me an extra 2 points in regards to the matchup?
Now, why wouldn't you wait on that, though? You think it's going to 7?
I don't think we're going to get to. I don't think we're going to get to 7. I don't think we're going to get it. I'm willing to lay the 7.5. I'm willing to say, I've watched Buffalo in terms of first-round matchups. They laid it 11.5 to Skylar Thompson a couple of years ago. Won that ball game basically by 3 points. Won but didn't cover. They didn't cover against Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. No, I'm telling you.
Are you building the case against yourself?
No.
All right.
I'm saying for me, I think they're a much better team now, and I have a quarterback that's playing at an elite level right now. Granted. You want to say the playmakers are just average? That's fine. But Josh Allen, when he's on, is as good as anybody. And you have a rookie quarterback. You want to say Bo Nix is punching above his weight? Great. 4 touchdowns against backups in terms of Kansas City. Now he's got to go to Bills Mafia in a rough environment. This is the playoffs. This isn't the regular season.
So 2 things +quickly for me as somebody who wants to bet Denver.
Mm-hmm.
I was just being greedy, and I wanted the 8.5 to get to 9. Obviously, it's gone the other way. 8.5 -1. Plus 8.5 is at -120 on FanDuel. 9.5 is at -127, -128. The 8.5 on DraftKings at -127. I'm sitting now. Ultimately, if this thing gets down to 7, like I'm just gonna wipe my hands with it. I can bet it live. Buffalo scores first. So I really like Denver, but I'm now sitting and waiting as well. Right? I know you. Okay, Josh Allen. One of the reasons he may not win MVP is how he closed the regular season. He was atrocious to close the year in those final 2 games. Now, he was heaven sent the 2 weeks prior against LA and Detroit. So you can say that is unfair, and I think that is totally fine. But he completed under 60% of his passes against both New England and New York. And if we want to say that Lamar beat up on some bums to get his numbers better, that's fine. Why didn't Josh? So Josh is undeniably not entering the playoffs playing the best football of his season. I don't love that. I don't. I also still just wonder, and this is probably one of those things where you go, eventually it's going to land black, right?
Right.
Like, are we sure he's done throwing picks? Like, I can't wrap my head around that Josh Allen, that Joe Brady, they've just got this guy to completely stop throwing interceptions. And I, by the way, was saying this during last year's postseason, and he didn't throw a pick in either game. So maybe Josh has just figured it out, which would be great for this football team. It's one of the things that I do worry a little bit about on the Buffalo side.
No, it's a fair argument. I can't guarantee that Josh Allen is going to play clean with the football today. What I can guarantee you is that I believe he challenges that Denver defense over the top. I think he can potentially throw for 250 and 275 through the air and 2 touchdowns. I honestly believe that. I believe Dalton Kincaid has a big day today, 35.5. Back in that lineup, I think he could get to 40 and 50 yards. He's +3 to 1 to score a touchdown today. And I believe in James Cook, not just running the football, but in terms of the passing attack. I think they could exploit Denver's defense. And talking about the numbers for Josh Allen, he put up 450 yards against the LA Rams defense on the road. He dominated single-handedly one of the best teams in all of the NFL, a number 1 seed in terms of Detroit, with a 350-yard performance and 50 yards on the ground. And because they played down to the level of competition against New England and the Jets, 2 dead organizations, I'm not going to bash the guy. They won those games. They hammered the Jets. They hammered them in terms of that matchup.
Yeah, statistics-wise, too, for Josh Allen coming down the stretch. Obviously, he took a knee in one game, but the other 2 games had some really bad weather conditions to deal with at that point. Not bailing him out either way, but there are some discrepancies there. But the one thing you do like about the Buffalo Bills today, we're not worried about their running game. Quarterback can run it, running back can run it. I'm worried about a rookie quarterback on the road that's going to be dealing with just his arm and not much of a running game. Did you see the running games yesterday? Baltimore and Houston, they really dominated and took over. It's nice to have if you're a young quarterback.
Let's talk about the Eagles running game. Saquon Barkley makes his Eagles postseason debut against the Packers. We break it down next.